Hello, Caroline from White Wolf Mystic here. So I want to go ahead and do a reading about the blocks that keep us from experiencing joy and fulfillment in romantic relationships. So a lot of times when I'm doing readings for people and they want to know when they're going to meet that special someone or when they're going to have a fulfilling relationship, oftentimes the information that comes through the reading is not, oh, this time in the future, it's here's what you need to do to attract that to you more quickly. And that has a lot to do with removing certain blocks to intimacy. It has to do with healing some of our past childhood fears and insecurities. So I really want to do a reading to kind of just channel spirit on how we can take steps towards experiencing greater fulfillment in relationships and what are some of the traps and blocks that keep us from experiencing fulfillment. So to get started, I'm going to use a variety of decks. I don't really have a plan here. I'm just going to kind of go with what I'm feeling. So I'm going to work from a number of different decks, but we'll just kind of see what spirit wants to say. So I'm going to go ahead and channel spirits of the highest truth and compassion in this reading to give us advice for the highest good of all beings. I am bringing with me some rose quartz for unconditional love and compassion into this reading, obviously. And some smoky quartz, which is just really good when dealing with the shadow, when we have to step into some of the dark places of our own psyche and confront some hard truths. Smoky quartz is great for doing this in a way that is gentle and loving and protective. So highly recommend smoky quartz. I probably use this crystal more than any of my other crystals. So if you don't have smoky quartz, highly recommend it. Okay. So let me start with theme 1. Let's look at theme 1. What are some of the blocks or things that keep us from experiencing fulfilling romantic love? Okay. And I might just pull a bunch of cards just to get a message. I might not show all of them. It's just to kind of help link up to the intuitive channel. So just bear with me, okay? Okay. All right, so what I am getting with this, the first thing we have here is awareness. And this is really important. And this goes along with intention. Can you see this here? Is it like zooming in? Awareness. So oftentimes we enter into a romantic relationship because we meet someone that we think is really great or interesting, or because we're feeling lonely. A lot of times, most people enter into relationships for selfish reasons. And I mean this kindly and compassionately because we're all human and we all do this, but oftentimes we enter into relationships because we don't want to feel lonely, because we desire something that the other person has, whether it's wealth or status or a certain skill set, or maybe they are more free and we want to experience that. We'll often, want to enter in a relationship with someone out because of what we can get from them. Okay, so first step is awareness, and this is being aware of your intention. What is your intention in entering into a romantic relationship? Why do you want to be with this person? And it's not to shame yourself or be hard on yourself if there are selfish motivations. It's just being aware. Why am I feeling attracted to this person? What am I hoping to get from this person that maybe I don't have? Being aware of your intention is very important. And also stating your intention with someone. So if you really desire a committed relationship because you want to get married or because you want to have children and start a family, whatever the reason, being upfront and honest with the other person, like, hey, this is my long-term goal. I realize it may take us some time to get to know each other, but this is what I'm wanting. And being honest about that. Don't settle for someone who really doesn't want to commit right now or who's making all kinds of excuses, valid or otherwise, as to why they don't want to commit. So being honest and aware of why you're entering into a relationship, whether these are subconscious desires or conscious desires. You want to be in a committed relationship, or maybe you don't want to be in a committed relationship, and being honest with the other person about that. Although this is more a video for those who want committed romantic relationships, but no judgment for anyone else who's watching who does not want that. So awareness, being aware of your intentions and your desires. Number 1, sensitivity. I'm going to get another card to go with this because I want to see what this sensitivity has to do with. Okay. And this definitely goes along with awareness. Okay, so sensitivity. And I have here deception and envy and sharing. And so to me, this is giving and taking. Okay, so this is also being aware and sensitive too. So sensitivity is also just kind of a heightened state of awareness. And again, this could be not conscious awareness. This could be awareness, intuitive awareness. Sensitivity could be awareness of the other person's emotions, their intentions, their state of being. So sensitivity is also linked to awareness for me, and being aware of the other person's motivations, okay? What are their intentions for being with you? And it's okay to question someone else's character. I think it's extremely important in the beginning when you're getting to know someone to kind of assess their character. Are they honest? Are they truthful? Are they truthful in all situations or only in situations when people are watching them? How do they treat their friends? How do they treat their family members? How do they treat people in the service industry? That's a big one. That is a big one for indicating someone's character. I know, having worked in the service industry for many years, you really see like the ugly side of people in the service industry, because that's the one place where they want everything to be perfect, exactly how they want, and how they treat others who they perceive have nothing to offer them is very, very indicative of their character. So it's very important in the beginning, no matter how much you might like someone or how lonely you may feel, to assess their character. Because in many ways, when we end up then feeling frustrated down the line, if someone lied to us, or if they're manipulative, or if they were unfaithful, it's not to, again, beat ourselves up about it. It's never good to blame or to have guilt or shame towards others or towards yourself, right? But to rather be aware, were there red flags that I was ignoring? Did I not take the time to really make out their character and integrity before I got involved with them? So it's very important as well to be aware, to size up someone else's character. It doesn't mean you're judging them in a negative way. You can still have compassion for someone else, but also recognize that, their sense of integrity is really not compatible with mine. I have a certain set of standards and values, and you have to meet someone else on that same level of values. And if their values are different than yours, it doesn't mean they're a bad person per se. It just means you're not compatible in a relationship. So also, I do want to comment more about giving and taking, because I think this is important. Some of you out there watching this are a giver. You may tend to overgive. Some of you may be takers. There is no judgment, excuse me guys, either way, because there are deeply rooted psychological motivations for both of these stances, for both of these polarities. So it's not to judge either way, but there are helpful tips for each one. So if you are a giver, if you tend to overgive, I want to pull some cards before I start talking. Again, that's why I'm doing a card reading rather than just talking at y'all, because I can get very logical minded, and I know Spirit will want to cut in and have their own input. So, okay. So if you are a giver or you tend to overgive, what I have here is guide. So funny that I just said I need to allow Spirit to step in. And what is the card that comes through? Guide. Follow in the footsteps of greatness. So again, listening to your intuition. Oftentimes, if you are an overgiver, I am an overgiver. This is something that I experience a lot in my life, in relationships. Even overgiving and overnurturing is a form of manipulation, because it's a form of, I'm going to give and give and give so that I can receive love, so that I can receive validation of my worthiness, so that other people will then give in return. And it can often be a trap. So we should only ever give to someone else out of a genuine desire to give without wanting anything back. Now, that doesn't mean that you give in relationships and you're like, oh, don't worry about it, you don't have to like love me back or anything like that. No, you can have standards and you can set healthy boundaries and how you expect to be treated, and you stand up for that in the beginning. So oftentimes, if you are an overgiver, you may not set healthy boundaries. People that overgive tend to have poor boundaries, and that's how we end up feeling bitter and resentful and angry later on down the road. So if you're an overgiver, setting healthy boundaries in the very beginning of what you will and will not tolerate, what your values are, what you want in a relationship. Again, making sure that if you want a committed relationship, you are entering into a situation with someone who also wants a committed relationship, not someone who's just going to take and use you and, use your empathy, your sympathy, your love and affection if they can't reciprocate. Okay, reciprocity is very important. So establishing from the beginning what your expectations are around reciprocity, how you expect to be treated in return for what you are giving. And again, once you do that, then you can just give of what you have because you want to without feeling taken advantage of. And that's because you're setting healthy boundaries and expectations as far as how you want to be treated, okay? And this enables you to give without expectation and resentment once you kind of set the standard from the beginning. So overgiving. making sure that you're listening to your intuition. If your intuition or your feelings start bubbling up in the form of anger and resentment, this is a clear sign that you are giving too much, and you need to take a step back. You need to ask for your needs to be met. You need to express your feelings and your desires with your partner. So this is very important, okay? Listening to your feelings, not judging yourself for them, because if you do tend to overgive, anger, bitterness, and resentment are sure signs that you are giving too much, that you are burning out, and that your needs aren't being met. So listening to your inner guidance, okay? Listening to your intuition, listening to those red flags, listening to those feelings and emotions that are saying, hey, something is not balanced here, okay? And this is, in many ways, tied with self-worth. Overgiving is tied with self-worth. You may have experienced as a child a parent who was neglectful, who abandoned you, who was abusive in some way. And so overgiving is in many ways an attempt to heal that wound. You're hoping that by giving and by being super nice and kind and compassionate and by helping people, that they will then reciprocate and validate your worth and then heal that wound from childhood, okay? So it's very important that you recognize that you do your shadow work and really look at your past childhood experiences and forgiving those people, and for recognizing that it doesn't matter, not that it doesn't matter how you were treated, but regardless of how you were treated as a child, that has nothing to do with your worth. How people treat you, poorly or otherwise, has nothing to do with your worth, and it's important to know that, okay? Now, if you are a taker, if you tend to control or manipulate others for the sake of power or to validate your ego, if you tend towards narcissism or to be kind of selfish or self-absorbed, again, there's no judgment here from me. That is also psychological, and it stems from childhood. So what I've often observed people in my personal life that tend to be selfish or self-absorbed or even narcissistic is that they also grew up with a parent who was neglectful or abusive, and rather than becoming an overgiver in order to validate your worth, what you do is you build walls and you say, okay, well, if this person can't meet my needs, or if I'm super deprived of my needs as a child, I'm going to make sure no matter what that I can count on myself, and I'm going to get mine. I'm going to take care of number one. And that is another way of expressing those childhood wounds of abuse or neglect. So they're just different ends of the same spectrum. And I'm not a psychologist. I love psychology. I read a lot of psychology, but I don't want to oversimplify that that's all there is to it. Obviously, if you've suffered from childhood abuse, neglect, or trauma, you should seek help. This is just advice on some of the barriers to personal relationships. So part of the challenge with being a taker is fear, right? Fear that if you open yourself up to care for someone else, to nurture and support someone else, you're going to get rejected. And then your needs won't be met again. So there's the fear that if you give to others, your needs won't be met, you'll be rejected. Or there's a fear that if you give of yourself to others, you're giving your power away, right? Because again, being a taker or being a narcissist or someone who just tends to absorb more energy from others rather than giving, there's the fear that you'll give some of yourself away and your needs won't be met, okay? But the problem with this this is all about connection with others. The problem is that when you do this, you disconnect from others. You cannot experience great intimacy with others if you don't allow yourself to be vulnerable, if you don't give to others, okay? And this also goes with those who are overgiving. At the core of any healthy relationship is a healthy balance of giving and receiving. So for the overgivers, you have to allow yourself to receive. And for many of you, this is something that's very hard for you because you define yourself as being the martyr, as the one who saves everyone or who gives to everyone. But you don't often allow people to give to you because, again, it stems from issues of self-worth. So that's something to work on. For those that are takers, so to speak, your challenge is learning to give, right? Learning how to give. Learning how to receive, learning how to give. Either way, whichever stance, whatever polarity you're on, you're blocking the flow of giving and receiving. So being very mindful of that and being open and honest about your expectations in relationships and open and honest about how you want to feel in your relationship, right? Do you want to feel nurtured and supported? In order to do that, you have to nurture and support others. It's very important. It is the fundamental ingredient of a healthy, balanced relationship. Giving and receiving, mutual respect, and vulnerability. If you don't believe me, check out any of Brene Brown's TED Talks, books. She's phenomenal, and she talks all about the power of vulnerability and how it can be very scary. Now, I want to talk about vulnerability because it's scary as shit. There will be some cursing in this video, FYI. Probably should have said that in the beginning, but vulnerability is scary as shit because we've all faced rejection. We've all been rejected. We've all had our heart broken. We've probably all had someone at some point lie to us, cheat on us, deceive us in some way, and it's scary. It is scary. So the thing with vulnerability, it is a key ingredient to any healthy relationship. But it doesn't mean you go and be open and vulnerable with just anyone. Okay, it's very important. Again, it all goes back to assessing people's character, right? That was this card too, assessing people's character. Before you can be open and vulnerable with someone, before you dive in and start investing your emotions in them or whatnot, you need to assess their character a little bit. Are they trustworthy, right? Are they the kind of person that would lie or cheat? You know, are they the kind of person that is going to care about my needs and prioritize my needs? Will they care about me genuinely? Are they going to just take of everything that I have to give and not reciprocate, right? Or is this someone who is going to, you know, try and please me by giving too much but doesn't really respect themselves? That's another important characteristic, right? Someone who respects and honors themselves and who puts themselves first. That's healthy. That's healthy. So one of my favorite quotes from Maya Angelou is, "Be careful when a naked man offers you a shirt." And that quote has popped into my head when I've met people that I was attracted to, but it popped in my head as, oh, okay, but this is someone who doesn't value themselves, or maybe they are struggling with addictions, they're self-medicating, they like don't know how to take care of themselves. And someone who doesn't love themselves or doesn't really take care of themselves, how can they take care of you, right? If they don't know how to do it, because whatever love we give in relationships is first practiced on ourselves, good or otherwise. And that is a hard lesson to learn as well. If you want to receive healthy love from another, you have to learn how to give it to yourself first. So vulnerability, trusting the person that you're allowing yourself to be open and vulnerable with first. Don't just open up to anybody. Not everyone is worthy of hearing your deep innermost feelings and dreams and goals. Not everyone is worthy of what you have to give. So trust first. Once you've established that, once you've assessed someone's character, and then you feel like it's safe to be vulnerable, you've built that trust first, then you have to open up the flow to giving and receiving. Okay, so if you're the overgiver, you have to open up the flow to receiving. You have to state from the beginning, hey, I'm also worthy of receiving, and I expect reciprocity. Never necessarily 50%, because if you do tend to overgive, again, like I know I do, I give a lot. It's my nature. I can't expect that everyone is going to give in equal amounts, because I am just a lover. I just love people so much, and I overgive so easily, and I can't expect everyone to reciprocate to the same amount. It's not fair. It's never going to be necessarily 50-50, but setting those standards up front that you also deserve reciprocation. If you are a taker, and again, these are not really nice terms that I'm using. I wish there were better terms that I could come up with right now that doesn't seem quite so negative. But if you are one who tends to wall up and be more of a taker than a giver, learning that you have to open up the flow to giving if you want to experience intimacy, right? If you want to experience fulfillment in a relationship, because it is all about give and take. You can't just receive and receive and receive, hoping to nourish yourself with that, but not nourish your partner. Okay, so again, it's a flow, and it is scary because you have to open up that cage you built around yourself to protect yourself, because your needs weren't met when you were a kid, right? So it's very much, well, I'm going to protect myself and get mine, but you can't actually have a fulfilling relationship with someone that could meet your needs if you don't give. Okay, so with that, I also have Three of Cups. This is important. For me, this is a card of recognizing that you cannot rely on your relationship to meet all your needs. This is a card of friendship, of social groups, of family. So it's very important. Oftentimes, you know, just like we seek to have a bigger house because we think it'll make us happy. We seek to have a more fulfilling career. We want to raise. We want that nice car. We are always seeking outside of ourselves something better, something on the other side where the grass is greener. And I say that in, you know, quotes, because quotes are still cool. And you know, it's an illusion though, because fulfillment can only ever come from within, right? So oftentimes we do this, we make the same mistake in relationships. We expect that we will finally be happy or feel fulfilled in ourselves if we find the right partner. And again, it doesn't mean you can't find fulfillment in a relationship. Of course you can. You can find fulfillment in a career. You can find fulfillment in a stable home, but that isn't the sole source of your fulfillment. Fulfillment has to come from within. Otherwise, you will always be on the perpetual treadmill cycle of seeking outside of yourself, attaining what you think you want, you adjust, and then you seek higher, and it's just a never-ending cycle. So very important from Spirit is to be mindful of that, to have other healthy relationships, close friendships, relationships with family members, your social networks, hobbies, social activities, because you cannot rely on one person to meet all your needs. It's completely unrealistic, and you set yourself up for failure and heartbreak, okay? What I also have here is meditation. Meditation. So taking the time to go within and get clear about your worth, your values, what you want to feel, and start feeling that now. That is one of the ways you can attract the partnership that you want, is you first have to get clear on what that looks and feels like. And many people, this is the advice that comes through in a reading is, you know a lot of what you don't want, but what do you want? Okay, even making a list. I found that lists are extremely helpful for attracting a partner. Making a list, not just, oh, you want them to be this tall and you want them to make this much money, right? That's vain. Making a list of what the partnership will look like, how you want to help each other grow, what you want to contribute to the partnership, and what you want the partnership to contribute to you, and getting very clear on that. Okay, so going within, getting clear on what you want is very important, because if you don't get clear on what you want, you will attract a whole lot of what you don't want, which is always a good time, right? So going within, meditating, okay, getting clear on what you want to feel. That is the essential law of attraction, is getting to the level of the vibration of what you desire, okay? Being on that level, even if it's not in your vicinity yet, even if the relationship isn't in your vicinity yet, being at the vibration of feeling how you want to feel in this relationship will get you to that level where you'll then be able to meet that person that fulfills those requirements. Okay, I'm actually going to pull some shadow cards. This video is already getting long. I hope you guys are finding it helpful. Relationships are really tough stuff, man. Sometimes we just need a little guidance. What are some shadows that we're working with? Yeah, okay. Forceful. So letting go of the need to control. This is a really tough one in all areas of life, not just romantic relationships, but we need to be always in control. We don't like uncertainty. Human beings do not like uncertainty. Most of us don't like change. So we want to have the certainty of when it's going to happen, and is it going to work out, and when will I get married, or so on and so forth. Rather than looking at it as a goal with an outcome, look at relationships as a journey that is ever evolving and helping you to grow and the other person to grow. In their essence, relationships are spiritual assignments, meaning you come together to help trigger each other for the purpose of soul growth. Even the most healthy, loving, peaceful relationship will be triggering in some ways, because the purpose of a relationship is to help you grow, not to help you stay stagnant, okay? So letting go of the need for control, letting go of trying to control or manipulate other people to get what you want, because it's only going to backfire, and worst case scenario, it does create negative karma. So you'll have to come back and repeat that situation again until you learn. That's no fun. Don't do that. Try and work on just being in the present moment and giving and receiving, okay? So letting go of the need for control, letting go of the need for certainty, because life is not certain, okay? Cold. So again, this is for those that really tend to close up out of fear of rejection. You do have to open yourself up a little. You have to be willing to express your feelings and to validate the feelings of others. This is very valid in particular for men, for a lot of men in our culture, because men are raised to believe that their emotions are a weakness, that they can't ask for help, that they have to do everything by themselves, that they're not allowed to feel fear, they have to be strong, they have to be tough, they have to soldier through it. They have to have all the answers, right? And this is so unrealistic and so unfair. So recognizing that it's okay to have emotions, it's okay to validate your emotions, it's important to validate the emotions of others, And this is how you establish intimacy and connection with others, is that vulnerability. But again, remember what I mentioned before, being careful with who you open yourself up to, making sure you're assessing their character and their integrity first. Don't just go opening up to anyone, because it can definitely backfire. So making sure you're trusting the person you're opening up to, but then it is important. It is an essential part of relationships, is emotional connection. Okay, so now I'm just going to close out with some messages of love from the Whispers of Love Oracle. Quality time. Okay, quality time. And what's coming up for this one is being mindful of how you're connecting with others. We are definitely in an era now where we are constantly on our phones, we are constantly on our computers, we're on our social networks, we're sitting in front of television watching TV or a movie, and these are all fine ways to connect with others, but they cannot sustain a relationship by themselves. Quality time is very important. One of my sacred rules when I'm with close friends or family is that when it's dinner time, when it's mealtime, there are no phones on the table. Like, mealtime is an ancient, sacred human ritual. It is where we connect and we share stories, we talk about our day. That really should, well, I don't want to say should because everyone's different, but try and be mindful that there are devoted times in your day when you're with your partner or your close friends and loved ones where you're not on your phones. Sacred time, free of technology. Spending time in nature is another one. Being mindful of that. It's very important to creating deeper connection and intimacy, is being present with the other person. Listening is another one. Active listening, not just talking. If you are an overgiver, you may struggle with, talking. For me in particular as well, that's something I struggle with, that, talking as much about my life and my interests and my day. I tend to listen very much to the other person, but don't speak up. So feeling like you have the right to share your story with another, to talk just as much in the conversation as the other person, and making sure you're listening. Okay, listening is very important. So equal talking and listening, sharing of your story and listening and honoring another person's story is very important. Being present, being in the present moment. Don't be distracted. Don't be multitasking. Giving someone your full undivided attention is extremely powerful, and you also have the right to someone else's full and undivided attention in a romantic relationship. Okay, not 100% of the time, because we all have to have our own lives and live our own lives. We can't expect someone else to meet our needs all the time. Again, right? That goes back to having a social life, having other people that we lean on to have our needs met. Okay. What else? Yeah, this is just confirming what I just said. Listen with your heart. You are listening to what is being said to you, but you need to listen with a loving heart. So this is releasing judgment and criticism, and being willing to talk through your issues with someone else. A lot of people have expectations that a romantic relationship should be peaceful all the time, or that there's not going to be conflict. A lot of people have a tendency to avoid conflict just as much as there are those who constantly seek out conflict. But in order to achieve harmony, you really have to understand the other person's needs. You have to not only communicate your needs, but be willing to understand and listen to the other person's needs. This is important in experiencing fulfillment in a relationship, is understanding each other. It's, again, mutual respect. Mutual respect is understanding what someone else needs to be fulfilled and happy. It doesn't mean you're guaranteeing you'll be able to give them all of that, but also expressing what you need to feel fulfilled and happy, and recognizing that you may not always have those needs met by your partner either. That's why it's important to have other relationships, okay? But listening to each other's needs, expressing them openly. No one can read your mind. No one can read minds. Being open and honest about what you need and what your expectations are, okay? So that is it. If you do that, you can experience divine love, the union of hearts. It is absolutely possible for everyone, no matter your upbringing, no matter your circumstance, no matter how much money you make or don't. Everyone can experience divine love, but it is getting clear on what it is that you want, getting clear on your self-worth, and acknowledging that you have worth in a relationship, and communicating openly, and making sure you're keeping that channel of giving and receiving open. Okay, very important. So let me get one last message to wrap this up. Yeah, what I just said. Getting clear on what it is that you want, how you want to feel. Writing down that list, very important. Even if you're already in a relationship, you can still make a list, and that will help to manifest change in your relationship. It will help to teach you to be more open about what your needs are, okay? And again, it's important to always be open and honest about your needs and to be assertive. It doesn't mean you're always going to have those needs met, but you have to validate them, that they are worthy, what you feel is worthy, even if it's not logical, okay? Validating your feelings and having your partner validate your feelings is important. And being mindful of your triggers. This is a great way to end it, because just because you are triggered in your relationship doesn't mean your relationship isn't healthy. Again, it's not going to be all rainbows and sunshine all the time. Even if the relationship doesn't work out, doing the work of reassessing where you were triggered and why, where you feel anger or bitterness and resentment and why. This is the important self-work. This is where self-work, inner work comes from. And again, shadow work, and I do shadow work counseling if that is something that you're interested in, but getting clear on why you felt that way, why someone triggered you in that way, and what is the root of it. And of course, most of the roots go back to childhood or to some early event in your life that you need to rework or resolve and heal, and always with non-judgment and compassion. So be mindful of your triggers, because being present and aware of your triggers and working through them gives you the best possible outcome, in that you can then attract healthier relationship or to help heal your relationship. If you don't do this work, you bring these triggers with you into your next relationship, guaranteed. That is the nature of the psyche. That is the nature of the shadow self. Whatever you don't heal, you bring with you until you heal it, okay? So just being mindful of your triggers, writing in a journal, meditating, and just becoming aware of what triggers you and how can you work through that and heal that within yourself so that you will feel more whole, okay? You are already whole. It's just a matter of experiencing that wholeness in yourself. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. It's meant to be empowering. We all have the power and the capacity in our own lives to attract the partnership that we want by doing our own inner work. And again, the answer is always within yourself. And being mindful of those that you let into your life, being mindful of those that you share your energy with, but it all comes from within, okay? It's about taking personal responsibility for your own happiness and recognizing that you can experience greater happiness when you take responsibility and when you set healthy boundaries with others, okay? And again, giving and receiving, reciprocity is very important. Giving and receiving, keeping that flow, that cycle always open, okay? Thank you guys for watching, and you have a great day. Bye.